Hello, Facebook. It is Heather McManus here again to share with you for Collaborate to Win, the only buying group for interior designers offering stocking dealer pricing. And we are just two interior designers, stagers, and decorators. Very unique service because the internet has made it so difficult for us to be able to compete that I created this whole system of interior designers helping each other. And so today, like every Thursday, we're going to talk product knowledge. So every Thursday at 1 o'clock, you can tune in and learn more about different product topics. So today, we're going to talk about the lower end price points for products. Last week, we talked the super high end, the kind of opposite on the ladder of design furniture that you can purchase. So today we're going to start with the lower end and maybe even get a little of the middle end stuff in there too. So welcome and thank you for joining me. I'm happy to have anybody who's listening in. So let's get started, shall we? So I want to start with IKEA. They are, and I think, where everyone starts off. You've graduated for college, you're strapped for cash, and they are a great value, right? Yeah, you're going to have to put it together. It's got a weird Swedish name or whatever, but it's decent enough furniture that it's going to last a while. Like I still have some IKEA stuff, like office stuff, from when I first graduated, which was in 1999. So it can last, and you can't beat the price. And what they do really well is they don't have a lot of middleman in between, distributors and people who upsell it, and then they make their stuff and they sell their stuff in their store. Period. End of story. So all of the little middlemen are not in this equation. They're not there to make a little bit more and charge more and whatever. So IKEA does a really good job at that beginner's level entry furniture. It'll scratch and you won't be able to fix it. It'll get damaged, but you're not heartbroken when that happens, right? It may not be the most stylish stuff. It's really kind of very plain, but that's okay. Sometimes when you just need a bookcase, it's a place to start, right? So that's my bottom level of good. There's garbage below that, but we're not even going to talk about that because you should never spec that for a client that's paying you to do a job. I mean, unless that's truly where their budget's at and that's all they can afford because they're just there, then okay, fine. But know that furniture winds up in a landfill in 2 to 3 years. So you're buying the same thing again. If you can get the client to get what I call the good level. So, and a lot of designers talk this way. So we say that there's good furniture, there's better furniture, and then there's the best furniture. You could also say there's low end, middle, and high. But low, middle, and high, they kind of have a negative attitude about it. Whereas if you say it's good, better, and best, it's a little gentler and softer. And especially when you talk to a client, when you say this is good furniture, this is better furniture, this is the best furniture, it sounds a lot better than this is the low, this is the middle, and this is the high. And so IKEA is the bottom of the good, and then it kind of goes up from there. So other companies that I know of that are in this good level, and I'm looking at my notes again, we have IMAX, Modway, Renwill, Zuo, Savoy House, Four Hands, Klausner, Rowe, Surya, I would say Uttermost, Creations Limited, Universal, Stanley, Hooker, Lexington, and then that's kind of what I consider like the most popular in that category. And then after that, it just gets a little bit more expensive and a little bit better, right? So after that, I would say, you know, Vanguard, Woodbridge, Chelsea House, Maitland Smith, Mr. Brown, Bernhardt, Allen Parks, American Leather. You know, now we're getting up and, you know, much better. We're getting closer to the higher end. So each of these companies are really nice companies to be able to sell to a client, because it's going to last a little longer. And what I know about the lower end, which I can share with you, is it's probably not made here in the U.S. because the livable wage for a U.S. citizen is much higher than it is overseas. So they make the furniture over there because what we would need to get paid an hour is definitely not what somebody in China or Vietnam or India would have to get paid. So it could be that the company has total oversight. It's designed here. They're overseeing it because it's their warehouse and they've hired the people and they're completely in control of the whole process. It's just, it gets made overseas because that's where, you know, the labor is so much cheaper, and then it ships here. So in one of my first videos, I explained that the biggest problem with furniture that gets shipped from overseas is the fact that those tend to be much warmer, more tropical climates. So the humidity in those climates is very different from where I am in the Northeast of America. So, and especially in the winter when I have the heat going, that system of air is drying out your wood, and it can make things move and shift a little bit. And so that's just kind of one of those things that you have to look out for. Another thing is that on top of it not being made in America, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad, it could mean that if something's back ordered, it's just going to take much longer to get it, because it's got to go on a ship across the sea, and then it's got to get through customs, and then if it's porting in California, then if it's coming to me in New Jersey, it's got to go all the way across the U.S. and come to that point to get to me. So it just takes a little longer if it's back ordered. There was really an interesting situation that happened a couple of years ago. I don't remember. It might have been 2 years ago now. It was a freight carrier, like one of these giant shipping containers that had a bunch of furniture sitting on it, and the boat company went out of business, and it's got all of those thousands of millions of people's products sitting on there, and it couldn't dock and get unloaded because the boat company they went out of business. So it was a long process to get the furniture. I think I had one piece that was on back order for a long time because it was sitting on the boat. So things like that, can happen with the lower end when it comes from overseas. Another thing about the lower end is it may not be as well made as the high-end stuff, but they'll do their best to, cut costs, but still make it a drawer that will open. For example, they'll use a metal glide, which is easier to install and will still open properly than a wood glide, because that takes a real craftsperson that knows cabinet making skills like really well. So that's one way that you can still have something that's decent and will open, but that's one of the corners that they can kind of help themselves out in the making process. So there's that. There's going to be a lot less choices. That's probably the biggest difference, is that you're only going to have one finish or one fabric. Maybe you'll have two finishes to choose from in anything that we're talking about. It could be coffee tables, dining tables, kitchen chairs, whatever it is. The finish options go way down. So, and if as long as that finish works for you, then that is decent, right? But when you get into the higher end, better categories. There's tons of finishes to choose from, millions of fabrics to pick from, all kinds of customized details. Whereas with the lower end, it is what it is. And that's how they're able to make so many of them, right? And get that really good price point, because they're just finish it in the one finish. You don't have to sit there and go, well, Mrs. Jones wants it in this finish, and Claire wants it in that one, and so on. So they can kind of bang them out a little bit faster, right? So that's one of the main differences, I would say, between the bottom good level to the better. That's all the choices, all those options that you get when you get into better. They make it more personal and more you, and you might settle for a finish that you would have otherwise liked to have it be a little darker, a little lighter. So that's one of the things about the lower end. Let's see, what else do I have in my notes? Okay, so on top of less choices, you're also going to wind up with a little bit more of a trendy look in these companies. So because they discontinue the collections a lot faster. When I talked to you guys about the high end last week, those collections are around for like forever. I mean, I have Scalamandre fabric that's in the White House that's been around for, I don't know, 100 years, since they first started. So the really high-end stuff keep their collections around for a really long time. Whereas the low-end stuff, you might get 2 seasons out of it, a couple years, and they introduce new product mostly in the April market. So this high point is coming up in April. That's when a lot of new collections will be introduced. And so when they're introducing something new, they have to look and say, well, we can't have all of this, so what's not selling that great anymore? Let's just continue that collection. So something's going to go away to make room for the new. And that mostly happens in April. So you'll get a big kind of turnaround in collections. So the lower end tend to be a little bit more trendy in the finishes that they'll do, in the styles, because they can afford to. It's not going to have to last the test of time. It's going to be sold for a couple years, and then they just continue that whole collection and introduce a new one that's maybe slightly different. Or they could even discontinue half of the collection and keep the first, most popular pieces and add to it with some other things that they think would sell better. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're looking at the high-end stuff. If you've got a client that wants to work slowly and add pieces because they're going to do it more of the right way and get something a little better, then go to the garbage that they're going to throw away. You might want to consider buying a collection a little faster from the lower end, because if Mrs. Jones says, okay, well, I'll order the bed from this collection and the 2 nightstands, but I'm going to hold off on that dresser. If you wait 2 to 3 years, that dresser might be discontinued. And those finishes were kind of trendy and a little different. So finding something that's going to fit now after that collection got discontinued could be really difficult. So it's something to keep in mind when you're sourcing is, if it is one of the lower end, try to buy all of that collection at the one time. And sometimes, the finishes will shift. If and this could happen with anybody's manufacturing. If there's a batch of some, like say it's a painted white, the next round in a couple of months from now, if you're ordering another piece, whoever mixed the batch of white paint could mix it just ever so slightly differently, and it will get applied and be just a teeny tiny bit different in the way that it looks, because it got applied a month later. And things age. If you have something in the sun will bleach it. I mean, like crazy. It's the sun is very powerful, and it will take away spots and show up. So if you've got something in your house People notice it a lot in dining room tables because you'll store a leaf somewhere in like a dark closet or under your bed, and then you take the leaf out and it doesn't match the table because the table's been out in the sun in lights, and so it'll just be a little bit different. So it can happen when you're ordering a piece a little later that it comes in just slightly different. And if they're not near each other in the room, you're not going to notice it as much. But if they are kind of close to each other, you can tell the difference between the finishes a little bit more than when they're further away, right? So hello, Krista, and hello, Jillian. Thank you guys for joining. Glad to have you here. So I'm going to continue talking about the lower end, or otherwise known as good price point for clients. So yeah, so they're more trendy. They'll get discontinued faster. So you have to just be careful when you're speccing that for clients. It's usually made overseas, so it could take a little longer if it's not in stock. It's really important to pay attention to whether something's in stock or not, because it could be the difference of it showing up in a week versus it showing up in a few months. And, just depends on how you're managing expectations of your clients, because some people expect it to be, like Amazon, it just shows up in 2 days, right? We're all so like immediate now. Everything's microwaved right away. So for a client to wait for something, you really have to tell them, if it's in stock, you could get it very quickly. And if not, it's good to have that stuff talked about right away and written into contracts and, welcome packets and all that, so that none of these issues come up. So if something is back ordered, at least, they're aware. Okay, what else? So that is the main points about the lower end. Hi, Ann, glad you guys can join. So, and then you climb in little bits of improvements, like, so getting from the good to the better level, the difference is choices, I would say, is the main difference, that you suddenly have, more finishes, more fabrics. You're able to customize, how you want nail heads to go on the piece, or you don't want the nail heads, or you're going to change the wood finish, or whatever it is. So as you get into the better quality, that's probably your biggest difference. And they do little things that make such a nice difference. Oh, okay. Here's one. Oh, Lord. Okay. Customer service. It's something we take for granted, I think, because so many people don't really do a good job on customer service anymore. And it makes me a little crazy, because when you need the help, and you don't need someone giving you a runaround or not getting back to you, right? I mean, this is now a problem, and so you need it dealt with. The lower end companies aren't so good with the customer service. The higher end companies, because they've charged you so much more money for this, they're all about customer service. So the higher up in you go in price point, the better customer service you wind up with. And yes, Julie says, oh my word, yes, the biggest pet peeve, right? I mean, customer service, it's like an antique expression now. Like, what's that? It's insane. So I just had something with, maybe I shouldn't say their name, but a lower end company that I ordered for my buying group. I ordered something for somebody, and the person who accepts my checks doesn't work there anymore. And so my check was sitting there and no one processed it. So that means your order is not processed, because they're not ordering anything until it's paid for. So I called a week later, or actually no, I emailed a week later, and obviously this person doesn't work there anymore. So that email of, hey, did you get my check? Where are we at? Didn't go anywhere. So then I call my sales rep, or I email my sales rep. No, I think I called her. So she says, oh, well, he doesn't work there anymore. Okay. And so I'm in the middle of something when she calls me back. So I don't even have paper to write down the person's name. So then days go by, because she was supposed to email me, what this new person's email is so that I could get this new person their money. I'm trying to give them money. So it took 2 weeks for me to actually, and angry emails, angry phone calls. I'm like, I expect this to be taken care of by the end of the day. And it was not taken care of until the next day, the next morning, after lots of angriness. So that's just sad that that's the case. But the level of service that you get, you know, can improve greatly with the amount of money that you wind up paying for things. That's at least my experience. So, and it's probably true in like everything that we deal with. And I would also say that on top of things lasting longer, they do other little stuff that's just nice for your clients and nice experience for you as the designer too. I recently just got a coffee table from Sareed, and they had this tag that says care and maintenance. And it goes about how your piece was created, how to wipe it clean with a soft cloth, you know, what happens if this, that, and the other thing. So this is just sort of a nice little thing that the client gets when they have a piece that's a little bit in towards the better. I would say Sareed is between good and better in their quality and their price, because they don't offer necessarily that same coffee table in 6 finishes. You know, it's only available in that one finish, but it's a really good price point and high style, and you know, it's shipped very quickly and comes with some nice care instructions. So those are the little things that make a big difference. When you get into the better range, which I would say is like American Leather, Lee, Leathercraft, Design Master, C.R. Lane, and a bunch of others. You know, there's lots that I would say are in that. You're getting a lot more choices. And when C.R. Lane's one of my favorite companies, so I order from them a lot. And what happens is when somebody gets their sofa or chair or anything, there's a card similar to this with care instructions. It's like a little booklet. And somebody has signed their name for who cut your fabric, who sewed the fabric, the manager who was overseeing the project. And it's a handwritten signature with somebody's name that made your stuff. It just feels really special. And it's like oh wow, so this was made in America, and Sally Johansson made this, you know, and there's like a wonderful little personal connection. And so my clients love getting those kind of special details because it's becoming more and more rare, right? With everything being overseas, and it, you know, it just shows up anonymously in a box at your front door. So it's the little things, I think, that inch companies up in the better pricing and quality and service and all of those things to make it well-rounded. So so that's pretty much it. So last week we covered high-end. I think we pretty much covered the good and better, right? So next week, let's talk about Made in America, because that was somebody's suggestion. They were like, well, what is Made in America and why is that good? So next week we'll cover that. And if you guys have any suggestions for what questions you might have, something that you want to know more about in terms of products or pricing or whatever, please let me know. Put a comment in here, and we'll make that a topic. So thank you so much for joining. I'm really glad to be here to help share my knowledge with you, and you know, my expertise that I've built over many years of just selling furniture and doing interior design. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you will tune in next week. Okay, bye.